I've always been a huge enthusiast of motorsport, cars in general. This stems back to when I was about that high, no, maybe less. And given my first stinky toy, it's the same thing, you know, as so many people. I've never looked back. I became much more involved when I was at school and met people of the same ilk, the people who used to enjoy the same sort of thing, and I think it really met its zenith at the time of the huge Ford Ferrari wars at the Mans, which would be 66, 67. So none of this has ever been professional until the very early 90s, when I started Auto Italia magazine with a colleague, and my professional writing and photography career took off from there. I was the editor at large, and to a certain extent I still fulfil that role in that I travel as much as I can to as many events, relevant happenings as possible, really, as a reporter, as a writer, as a photographer. The 1962 Ferrari 250 GTO was without doubt the most unbelievable experience, really. Just being allowed to have one for a day in Essex. And the icing on the cake on that occasion was that we were also lent for the day the ex-Jackie Stewart works lightweight E-Type. And we had them on the road in Essex. The funny thing was, nobody noticed. It was a Monday and hardly anybody noticed, and I think a lot of people probably just shrug and think, oh, it must be a replica or something like that, you know. But to actually have what at today's values, £12 million worth of cars to do what you like with, for 6 or 7 hours was an amazing experience. But I've also thoroughly enjoyed all the smaller stuff. I'm a great lover of the obscure, and the Lancia 37, whilst that is now increasing in value at a huge amount, although that's not something that I try to get involved in. Lancia 37 was a fabulous experience. To drive a Group B rally car on the road was quite something. But also I love 1950s Fiats, 1920s cars. Very broad taste. Very broad. One of them is the story of the Alfa Tipo 33, which I did with my very good friend and colleague Ed McDonough, who I believe at this very moment is writing a book on Matra for Veloce, and he also combined with me to do the Ferrari 312P and PB book, which is going to come out fairly soon, I hope. The other one is the Lancia 37. The Alfa Tipo 33 was a labour of love. It's in many ways was a subject that very few people wanted to touch because there is nothing written down about the cars until now. Both of us, both Ed and I, consider that what is contained in the covers of that book is probably the total, pretty well the sum of knowledge in the world of the cars. That is a classic example of an enthusiasm. It was always a possible ambition that it would all go down on paper at one sooner or later. And eventually Ed and I said, well, why don't we do it? And so we did, and that's the result. The Lancia 37 I'm really, really pleased with because I have become very friendly with engineer Sergio Limoni in Italy, and he was the chief designer, chief engineer of Abarth from about 1972 he joined, and recently retired last year in fact. and he has a whole string. If you think of many of the Italian rally and race cars of that period, he was responsible for them, from the Fiat 131 Abarth, the Fiat Ritmo rally cars, right through to the DTM and ITC Alfa Romeos, which will be part of the subject of my next book for Veloce. He is responsible for them, and so he actually asked me if I would do it, and he said, "Would you write it with me for me?" And that's the result. And again, I think I'd like to say that there's probably just about everything there is to know about the cars in there too.
You also have a love for saloon car racing.
Oh yes,
yes. And we have the British Touring Car Championship book coming out very soon. What can we expect from that?
This is just pure nostalgia. Veloce has this fantastic series called they're all entitled "Those Were the Days," and then they are Alton Park, Brands Hatch, Crystal Palace, steam road engines, caravans, whatever. It's just a great nostalgia piece, and so it enabled me to, instead of doing huge amounts of research, I just used my memories and experience of saloon car racing in the UK, and just picked out a number of pictures from my archive, and quite literally it's just a wander through, and I hope people will like it, because it's the sort of thing that certainly I talk to a lot of people about.
We're talking about something here that spans 3 or 4 decades, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
This dates back to the 60s.
That's right. Well, I first went motor racing. My first ever motor race was Boxing Day Brands in 1965, and I can remember that within 5 minutes of seeing the cars going around, I was hooked. So it's a book that I've had a huge amount of pleasure in producing, and I hope that pleasure comes through, because I was involved with saloon car racing in the mid-70s. My father and I ran a car, sponsored a car in the British Touring Car Championship, and I got to know a lot of the drivers. So there's a lot of personal stuff in there. Well, once again, that's something which is close to my heart, because the Ferrari 312s, the 3-litre 12-cylinder, flat 12-cylinder sports prototypes from 1969 to 1974 were some of the most stunning visually cars, and also they were just fabulous to listen to as well, with the 3-litre engines. It was a great period of motorsport, because of course it included 69 to 74 included the period when the Ferrari and Porsches came together. With this book, it's a good overview, so that people can enjoy reading and seeing all about the cars, and maybe that'll be a good appetizer for buying more detailed books later. From my personal point of view, Veloce is great, because for some reason I'm able to do pretty well everything I've wanted so far, which has been great. A vast range of titles is staggering. It's a super organisation.